And I started with, how do I make $100 million in 12 months?
From what I remember from our conversations over drinks, you upped the goal to 1 billion in 12 months.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
And so what I did about 10 years ago is I started, it's quite interesting, I started journaling to envision like what it was I wanted to get out of my life. And then I think where I made the biggest breakthrough, and that was kind of around the time I was home, is that I wasn't using the journal no longer to write down what I wanted. I was using the journal process to write down how do I get what I want. And I think that was the biggest breakthrough that I had, whereas, and you think about it a lot, is that a lot of people, when they're thinking in their mind, they're always asking themselves, why? Why did this happen to me? Why am I not happy with my body? Why am I not happy with my bank account? And when I first started, back to the point, like how? It was not, why don't I have $100 million? Like, how do I get $100 million? And I thought, let me be really cheeky with myself and say, in 12 months. And that's when you saw me. And by the time when you saw me, I also thought it was a crazy, crazy thing to try and do. But the funny thing is that by doing 3 or 4 sessions like that, I actually figured out a way to do it and then ended up doing it, which was just the crazy. So when you saw me, I had no hope or belief whatsoever that it was possible, but it was just like a fun thing to do. Like I could watch something on Netflix, I could go to the cinema, or I could just sit in a cool cafe and try and solve this ridiculous, crazy question. And what surprised me is that the more and more I did this kind of exercise, I would start to solve these problems. I deliberately bought a new notebook, and I started with, how do I make $100 million in 12 months?
Okay, so you started out with 100 billion in 1 year. Sorry, 100 million in
100
1 year.
million,
You executed that. I believe you then upped the goal. From what I remember from our conversations over drinks, you upped the goal to 1 billion in 12 months.
Yeah.
Did that happen?
It didn't happen completely, but it came super close.
What was the super close?
So we started a company called Iflix, and literally within 2 years of starting the company, the company was worth $500-600 million within 24 months of starting the company.
Got it. So
but what was interesting is that when I was doing the journaling for Iflix, I literally set myself the goal of how do I make this $1 billion company? How do I make this like within 24 months? And at the time I thought it was crazy, but I thought, you know what, like if I'm not gonna be crazy, I'm never gonna figure this out. If I just keep doing the same thing that every other entrepreneur does, then I'm never gonna get a crazy outsized result. And what was interesting is that we came up with a crazy plan, shared it with the team, they got behind it. And so to the point, what was funny is that we didn't hit the $1 billion goal, but we hit a $500 million goal. Man, damn, that's pretty damn good to hit the goal. So one of the things like you read, like sometimes like set the goal so far like ahead that even if you only hit half your goal, it's still pretty damn good achievement.
Right, it's like that quote, aim for the stars and maybe you'll land on the moon.
Correct, yeah.
This is kind of how you play the game of life. It's some people, their goal is to climb mountains. Your goal is to take companies public. I believe right now you have taken 5 companies public.
Correct.
Now, there was a moment though, when the dot-com bubble burst, when you had started. So Patrick started a search engine in Asia. I believe it was called Catcha. Catcha, and when the dot-com bubble burst, he basically was on the verge of losing everything. Tell us that story, how you rebounded, because that's a pretty cool story.
Okay, so what happened is then we woke up one day literally with $4 million in debt. The 300 staff went to 30 staff within one afternoon. We had to cut 4 countries, cut all the staff. It's really tough saying to your mom, like, I'm really sorry, like, I don't know what's happened to your life savings. I was in a really dark place. I would go to bed every night, literally hoping that like my building that I lived in would blow up while I was asleep. Like I wouldn't have to wake up to face the world tomorrow. And I stumbled across a book called Unlimited Power by Anthony Robbins, bought the book, went home, read it like literally, it was one of those, you ever have a book where you just can't put it down. And the book was kind of exactly what I needed at that point in time, because I hadn't given up, but I just didn't have the mental and the physical strength to keep going anymore. Like, my dream had to be an entrepreneur, and I'd seen that completely collapse. I was on the front page of the newspaper, there was literally a headline saying .com bust, big photo of me. And my poor mother had lost her life savings backing me. And so you just didn't have the mental strength or clarity to even like, how the fuck do you get out of this? And then I read the book, and straight away, it just gave me such a great blueprint on how to be more effective in the way that you use your brain, the way that you vision things, the questions that you ask, the way you communicate with yourself. And I literally went from there and executed everything. And kind of over an 8-year period, now we have 3,000 people across 30 countries.
Wow.
My mom got back all her savings, and it's been such a beautiful experience. So that was one of the key things. If you've never journaled, then just first get out all the bullshit in your life in the journal, and then start to what do you want out of life? And then start to, how do I get that in life? Put on some good music, go to a beautiful place, and just commit to just do one session in a cool cafe somewhere. And I think that you'll start to get addicted to it, and you'll find it such a beautiful therapeutic experience. And what you start to find, which is really different, you start to write the story of your life. And I'll tell you what's been mind-blowing, because I've been doing this process now for 10 years. Sometimes I would write I'd be like, okay, what does Patrick's life in 10 years look like? And I just write it, blah, 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 just crap, right? And it's so freaking scary, because I'd go back and read what I wrote, and it's like a 90% success rate. All the crazy things that I've written down have actually ended up coming into my life.